Today we're going to be making apple and pear crumble. I like putting a bit of pear in it because I think it actually adds a bit of extra flavour. And I also use fresh apples. It tastes better, it's better for you. You can by all means use tinned apples and you might actually save a bit of money. You probably save at least 50 cents to $1. But in this particular case I prefer fresh. I think fresh tastes better. Okay, to make our apple crumble we need about 3 apples, depending on whatever variety you like. I think these are Pink Lady, but seriously, whichever ones you prefer. A pear, some cinnamon sugar. You can make your own cinnamon sugar, obviously. If you want to mix caster sugar and cinnamon together, you can, but I already had this jar, so I've just got this. About 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, tablespoon of shredded coconut, a small handful of pecans, a tablespoon of oat bran, 50 grams of butter, a cup of flour, plain or self-raising, it doesn't really matter, and some nutmeg. Let's get started. The first step is to actually peel your apples and your pear and cut it up into bite-sized pieces. So I will do that and then I will get back to you. I've chopped up the apple and the pear, and you can see they're decent sized pieces. You don't want it too small, otherwise they'll just dissolve into nothing when you're cooking them up. You don't want to eat apple mush. It's not a baby food crumble. It's an apple and pear crumble. So I popped them into a little pot, and I went and got a lemon from my garden because I thought I should put some lemon in it. So I'll just put a squeeze of lemon juice in. Helps the apple stopping them from going brown, and a little bit of lemon taste will be nice. If you've got like lemon juice in a bottle from the supermarket, that's okay as well. And then I'm also going to add my cinnamon sugar. Just do some to taste. I'm just going to sprinkle it in a bit. So that would have been probably half a teaspoon. And I'll just stir it around. A lot of people don't put cinnamon in with their apples when they're making apple crumble, and I don't know why, because apple and cinnamon is just amazing. They'll do it for pie but not for crumble, so I think you should do it. And a lot of people won't put sugar in at this point because the topping has sugar in it, but I'm a little bit of a sweet tooth, so a little bit of sugar always makes it nicer. Now you can see here that everything's just got a very, very thin speckling of cinnamon and sugar, so I'm just going to sprinkle it a teeny little bit more. Be enough for me. Everything's really well covered. There's no point in stirring this in a bowl and making more mess. You might as well just do it straight into the pot. You know I hate doing dishes, so I'm not going to create more. Okay, let's see if I get some more juice out. Now I'm going to put this on a medium to low heat, and I'm going to cook this gently, making sure it doesn't dry out. Dries out, you will want to add a little bit of water. You don't want the apples to burn. And cook them until they're tender. So you can put a skewer through nice and soft, but not falling apart. So like a soft potato. I'm thinking it'll take probably about 10 to 15 minutes, but I'll find out and I'll let you know. While the apples are cooking, I'm going to start making the crumble. I forgot to mention, do put a lid on your apples because you want a little bit of the steam to stay in there and keep the apples moist so they don't dry out. So what I'm going to do is add my 1 cup of flour to the bowl and my 50 grams of butter, which I have just roughly chopped up. I'm going to rub it into my flour until it resembles sand or breadcrumbs. Now you can do this with a fork, you can do this with a pastry cutter. I'm going to do it with my fingers because it's quicker and easier if you ask me. It's a little bit more messier, but that's no big deal. So what you do is you literally just use the tips of your fingers and you rub the butter with the flour, and eventually all of the butter will be incorporated evenly into it. Effectively what happens is they become in tiny little balls, all mixed in with the flour. So I will finish this off and then I'll get back to you and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see now that the flour now looks a bit like sand or breadcrumbs because I've incorporated the butter evenly. So that looks like a lot of crumble, and it probably is a lot of crumble, but I love crumble. The crumble topping, I should say. So all I'm going to do now is just roughly chop up my pecans and add them in. You can add walnuts, you can add almonds, you can add other nuts, macadamias if you want. I just thought I'd do something different, have pecans. You can just add peanuts. You don't even have to add nuts if you don't want to. I should also mention that if you wanted to add something else to the apples, you could probably add sultanas. I'm not a big sultana fan, but you could add sultanas if you want to. So I'll just add in my chopped pecans, which add a nice bit of crunch. And you can add more or less if you want. I just wanted a little bit, and I wanted to keep this recipe affordable. And nuts can get quite expensive here in Australia, so I'll just put a few in. Then I'll add in my brown sugar. You can add more or less if you want it sweeter or not as sweet. But we already know I'm a bit of a sweet tooth. So I'll just break that up, make sure it's evenly mixed through. So I can see there's a few lumps of brown sugar. Whoops. That's alright. Then I'll add in my oat bran, and it's just gives it a little bit of extra depth in flavour. You don't have to add this in if you don't want to, but a massive bag is like $1. So I say add it in. You can put in rolled oats, actually. And some coconut. I've got shredded, but you can use desiccated, you can use whatever you like. Just adds in a nice bit of flavour. And lastly, I'm going to add in some nutmeg. This is just to taste. So I'm just going to do a dash for now. I use my nose a lot when I'm cooking, so I'll smell this. And I can really smell the nutmeg, so I know I've put enough in. If it's still, like if I can barely smell it, it's probably not enough. And that's our crumble mix ready. So I will come back to you when we're ready to assemble. I've got here a greased small, I suppose you could call it a tart dish. It is non-stick, but I do put a bit of spray of cooking oil just to make sure it is definitely non-stick. I'm going to add in my cooked apple and pear. Now the pear is a softer fruit than the apple, so it's completely disintegrated, but I don't mind that because it means the pear is evenly distributed throughout the apples. If you want chunks of pear, then only cook it for half the time than the apples. So I'll just add them in. So all that soft goo you can see is the cooked pear, but that's okay. So I'll just even it out. Now I specifically always select a shallow dish. It means that the pear to crumble ratio is far better. A lot of people use a deep dish like a pie dish, and if you fill it up with filling and then put just a little bit of crumble on top, you're only going to have this much crumble to this much apple, and seeing as how the crumble's the best bit, we'll do ours the other way around. So I've got my crumble here, and all you have to do is sprinkle it on, pat it down, see what I mean by it's a lot of crumble, but it's the best bit, trust me. You might not like it like this, so just make less crumble. Or you could put the rest of it in a freezer bag and put it in the freezer and keep it for another day. That would be okay. Don't leave it out because there is butter in it, remember. If you didn't have butter in it, you could just leave it in the pantry in like a Ziploc bag. But you get the idea. Now, I just had a thought as I was doing this, and I reckon if I sprinkle this, or I should say drizzle, with a little bit of melted butter, it'll just make the top go really nice and crispy. So it wasn't part of the original recipe that I had in my head this morning, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we'll melt some butter and I'll be back to you in 1 minute. Just melted probably 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm just going to drizzle it on top as I said. be a bit naughty. Probably 2 tablespoons was too much. 1 would have been enough, but I needed to make sure that was going to be enough. Excellent. Now you just put it in a preheated oven at about 180 degrees until the top is golden and brown and cooked. The fruit's cooked already, so it's just the top we just want to get nice and golden. Here's our crumble straight from the oven. It's how it's got a nice golden crust on top. It smells amazing. I'm just going to take a portion out so you can see what it looks like inside. And I would serve this with ice cream or even custard. It's your choice. If you actually want to keep it maybe a bit more healthier, you can always serve it with low-fat yogurt. That would also be an option, so you have something creamy without it being too fattening. So there's a portion of it, and you can see the crumbles nice and crispy on top and soft underneath, and there's the apples. And I'll just turn it around so you can see. So there you can see the layers, and it is absolutely delicious. I say make this and enjoy it.